Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life TV show. Welcome to the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life TV show. Hi, I'm your host. My name is Dr. Davia Shepherd. I host a women's group called Ladies Power Lunch, and we are having amazing discussion every single day about what it takes to grow your business smarter and to live your optimal life. So once a week, we hop on the show and we have some conversation with an amazing guest to help us to, of course, grow our businesses smarter and live our optimal lives. But if you would like to continue this conversation with us all week long and meet some amazing people who like having this kind of conversation, then I invite you, come on over to our Facebook group. It's growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook. It's pretty simple to remember. Growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook. We invite you to come on over and join us. Today, our special guest is Brittany Quagan, and she is a counselor. She is an amazing person. She's a best-selling author. She's going to be one of our outstanding workshop facilitators at our upcoming Ladies Power Lunch Fall Summit. By the way, if you want more information about attending one of our summits or retreats or anything like that, just go to growsmarternotharder.com/ticket. See how we made that all really easy for you. So if you want to join us over on Facebook, it's growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook. If you want information about tickets or any of our events, go to growsmarternotharder.com/tickets. See how I made that easy? Because it really is easy. It doesn't have to be hard. And that's the kind of thing that we want to talk about a whole lot more on this show. This particular group of episodes that we've been rolling out, they've all been focused on leadership. And today's episode is going to be talking about living your life by design, as opposed to living by default, as opposed to just living your life in the way that life kind of throws things at you. But I could go on and on about what we're going to talk about. I think the best person to share that information with us is going to have to be our special guest this morning, Brittany. Brittany, welcome. I'd love to introduce you to everybody. Say hi to everybody, Brittany.
I can come on the screen now. Hello.
I met Brittany. Brittany's a new friend to me, everyone. You guys know it seems like everybody who comes on the show just becomes a friend, but Brittany's a new friend for me. But I gotta tell you, very first time I met her, her energy was just so electric, and we kind of meshed really well right away on that very first day. So I'm so happy to be sharing Brittany with all of you. So excited. Brittany, will you share with everybody who you are and the amazing things that you're doing in the world?
Sure. However, that was such a lovely introduction. I don't really know how I'm going to top that. So hello, I'm very excited to be here, and I am just very thankful to have had the opportunity to have met you and all of the awesome women with Ladies Power Lunch. Like you said, my name is Brittany Quagan. I am an intuitive healer, a spiritual teacher, and a licensed clinical therapist. I spend most of my time helping people to rewrite their stories of trauma that has led them to experience quite a deal of pain and distress in their life, and to rewrite those stories so they can start to live the lives that they hope for, the best versions of themselves, and live a life of empowerment.
I love that. That is, one of the things that we all probably need to realize is that we kind of all have had some kind of experience in our lives that we could classify as traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things that might be in the background that might be holding us back from living what I like to call our optimal lives, what some people refer to as just living your best life. There's very often, for very many of us, an opportunity to embrace talking about that with somebody and embrace moving forward from that, because sometimes it's not even in our direct vision.
Right.
Sometimes it's back here where we can't really see it, and having some support to bring it forward so we can see it and move past it, that can be tremendously helpful. So Brittany, love, love, love what you're doing in the world. Also want to tell everybody before I forget, because I'm going to forget. I have mommy brain, guys. Listen, school's back in.
Oh, God, yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about that in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to tell you before I forget, Brittany is giving everybody a free gift. If you're tuning into this show, Brittany has a free gift for you. And I feel like that's tremendously generous. But wait, there is more. Because obviously this is a midnight infomercial, right? So basically, not only is Brittany giving you a free gift, but when you go to this particular website, you're going to get a whole bundle of free gifts. And you can choose which ones you like and which ones you don't. And you take the ones you like and you use them. This is my number one recommendation for this show. There is always something, at least one thing that you can implement in your life, in your business at the end of this show. Because I'm an action girl. Back in the day when I thought I was being asked to discover what it is that I want to be when I grow up, I wanted to be a superhero. I'm all about the action. Clearly, there was a screw loose at that point. But
no way, you are a superhero.
Hopefully we've screwed it back in. But I'm all about the implementation, the transformation. Use the tools that we have, because what I know for sure is that for just very, very many of us, the tools that we need to move ourselves forward, they're actually here somewhere in our field of view. But very, very often, and I say this so often that you're gonna think to yourself that I'm a broken record, but sometimes the thing we're looking for, it's right over here, and it's been sitting here the whole time, and we're over here looking for it and searching and just having a really, really difficult time when the thing that we need, it's right here. So I always say, hey, come to the show, watch the show. We're going to give you some really outstanding tips. Don't just let it go in one ear and out the other, but let's try to work on integration, implementation, and transformation. That's what we're about, right, Brittany?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I want you guys to go to growsmarternotharder.com/IYL bundle Brittany Q. Don't worry, I'll drop it in the show notes. So you can just click on it and go get your free gift. And thank you, Brittany, so much for your generosity. On with the show. So we always at the end of the show pull a card, but I just kept getting this call from this little tiny card deck asking me, pull me. And so I pulled this card and it says recharge. Please slow down. It is not selfish to take time out to look after yourself. I feel seen. I feel like that
Oh,
one's
yeah.
speaking directly to me because school just started for both my children, and one moved up to the next level of school, and the other one, he's alone at the old
Mm.
school. And so it's been a little bit of a transition for me. The times are different. So I have to wake up earlier in the morning, not really getting my morning routine in the way that it was. So there's taking a little time to let all of that gel. And I have been finding that I've been feeling a little bit more tired than usual. So I think that it's amazing that this card showed up inviting us to just take a beat, take a minute. What's this card saying for you, Brittany?
The second you pulled that card, I started laughing because I desperately need that reminder all the time lately. Because I recently decided to leave my full-time job at Yale, managing a neuroscience lab and operating as an associate clinic coordinator, in addition to running my private practice. And that my private practice is where I see my clients and do my life coaching and all my spiritual work with folks. And I decided to make the leap to just focus on that. And in the process of doing so, I've had to manage my full-time job and building up my practice, which is, I am so thankful, just bursting at the seams, but it leaves me very little time to recharge. So I love getting those reminders to say, like, okay, don't plan anything, don't do anything, just sit there and do nothing, because there's no way that we can be the best version of ourselves if we are running on empty. So
Can you say that again? There is no way we can be the best version of ourselves
if we're
if
running on
we're
empty.
running on empty. It makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. And yet, like I saw a post maybe on social media somewhere where it said, like, you wouldn't let your phone battery die, but
No.
you are really, really focused on running your own personal body into the ground. Why is that?
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
love that we pulled this card today, and I feel like it segues perfectly into what we're talking about with you today, Brittany, which is living your life by design. And I feel like part of that design has to be building in that time to recharge. So tell us a little bit about, what do you really mean when you say living your life by design, rewriting your story? What does that mean?
Oh, it means so many things. So we from the minute we're born, we are learning who we are supposed to be and who people want us to be, our place in this world, the roles that we are supposed to be participating in. And it the story is already being created for us. Our parents have expectations of who we're going to be when they think about, oh, I'm pregnant, or I'm adopting a baby, or whatever the means are for which we're going to have a child. We already have it in our head, like who that kid's going to be, who we want them to be. So our story already starts to get written without our participation. And that happens throughout our entire life, not just through the expectations that people have for us, but the things that we're told about ourselves, about who we are, about our behaviors, about our personality. And we just sort of take that as truth and don't really participate in who we want to be in that story and how we want that story to end up. And when I say rewrite your story, I mean really stopping and looking at the story that has been written, both by us and by the people in our lives and society in general, and being an active participant in making the necessary edits for the things that aren't working for us anymore, and the person that we don't want to be.
So, Brittany, you've had to go through this process yourself.
Mhm.
You've had to live this or walk this talk. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experience was like?
Absolutely. So I came from a family um where there was a lot of expectation of who you need to be and the success that you need to have in your life. I always heard about, be a doctor, be a lawyer, do this, do that. And it was never really anything that interested me or intrigued me in any way. And I was told for years about how if I want to be successful in life, I need to be the CEO of a company. I need to climb the ladder of a company. I need to be making a certain amount of money. I need to get married. I need to have kids by a certain age. I need to um just do all of the things that everybody in my life wanted me to do. And in addition to that, hearing about how I wasn't stepping up to the plate. I'm not good enough at these things. I'm not good enough at those things. And any idea that I had was always shot down. Like, that's stupid. You're stupid. This that's dumb. We shouldn't be doing that. If you do that, you're going to be broke. If you do that, you're not going to be successful. If you do that, and it was just always being told what I can't do and what I need to do. And none of those things ever aligned with who I actually was. And I couldn't figure out for a really long time why I was miserable and why I was struggling with depression and why I was struggling with anxiety and dating people that weren't good for me because they were, willing to marry me or taking jobs that I couldn't stand and just felt like my soul was being sucked dry because it was the thing that my dad encouraged me to do, whether it was dropping out of college because you don't need college, just climb the corporate ladder, you're already in, and letting go of my dreams. And it just, it never occurred to me for the longest time that I was feeling so empty and so anxious all the time because I wasn't actually living my life. I was pulled in a million directions where it reminds me of Harry Potter when the Dementors do the Dementor's kiss and they're sucking his soul out and like his body's there and he's like this corpse, but he's like screaming in pain and his soul is just being like pulled out in a million directions. And that's what my life felt like all the time, that I was just this shell of a person experiencing pain and my soul was in a million directions trying to please everyone around me except for myself.
I'm sure, Brittany, that there's so many of our viewers who can absolutely relate to that. So if you were to give us some do's and don'ts, some tips for really living our life by design, rewriting our prologue, reorganizing, doing our own edits, what are your tips for us?
I have a lot of tips.
We
So
have a lot of, opportunities to implement these tips. So please share them with us.
I think the first one is going to sound really controversial at first or really startling when I say that you are never going to be good enough. And what I mean by that is you're never going to be good enough for the people who you already don't feel good enough for, because there is no such thing as good enough. It's a completely subjective idea, and everybody else has a different expectation and a different understanding for what that means for them. So when we're trying to be good enough, what we're really trying to do is seek the approval of basically everyone around us, which is completely unrealistic. So I have sort of a combined do and don't, which is to do not seek approval and do seek alignment or do seek joy in whatever that that means for you. And it could be a terrifying thing, an absolutely terrifying thing to do that, because it goes against everything that we feel like we need to do, right? All of those supposed to's. But it is something that's entirely possible. So in addition to that, when you're feeling that fear, do seek guidance and support, whether that's through a therapist or a life coach or any sort of support system that you have, to work through those belief systems. Because if just the idea of going against what the norm is causes you panic, which it did for me, it was like, no, then my dad will be mad at me and everybody will be mad at me, and then I'm going to be poor and I'm going to be living on the streets and I'm never going to be successful. And we create all these wild stories about what's going to happen if we do these things. That's why it is so important to have a support system to help us really highlight those belief systems that we're living by, and to get the support as we move through that process. Do you want me to stop there, or do you want me to keep going? Keep going? Okay. Another do that I have is to absolutely embrace the things that make you different. I have marched to the beat of my own drums for my entire life, and it used to be something that I hid. It used to be something that I felt was problematic. It used to be this thing that made me feel like, because I am that way, that is why I will not be successful. And what ended up happening was it kept me unsuccessful because I stayed hidden. I stayed in the shadows. I completely dulled my shine, as a woman said to me one time, and did not allow myself to step forward. But once I did embrace the ideas that made me different, the ideas that made me quirky, embrace this personality that I have that is very energetic, my entire world changed and opened up in a complete 360. When I think back on my life as to who I was before, or not who I was, but who I pretended to be, because it was really just pretending to be someone that I wasn't. Oh my God. It was like I lived in quicksand, or like swamp mud, and just caked down all the time. And now it's so freeing and full of abundance, and full of success, and full of connection, and full of all of those things that I craved so much and feared I wouldn't get, by stepping into the things that made me different and the things that made me who I am. So that is an absolute do.
I love those. So any more tips? Because those are pretty outstanding.
This one I think is important as we're working towards success. So earlier we were talking about recharging, right? And taking action and being people of action who want to do things. And I think that is such an important thing to do, while simultaneously not forgetting to hold space for joy and for play. We kind of come from this societal norm that in order to be successful, you have to bust your ass to the point that like you die. So, we're all having health issues and mental health issues, and stressed out the wazoo because we're trying to make it. And like I said earlier, we can't show up and be the best version of ourselves and really bring our A game to the work that we're doing, and actually be able to meet the level of action that we want to meet if we're not making time for play. So if you find that your entire schedule is grinding it out, like mine has been for this last month, which I am changing in 2 weeks, then we're doing it wrong, because we're going to be burnt the hell out, and that isn't good and it's not healthy. So make time for play. My husband and I, people would think that we have kids. We don't yet, because on Friday nights we're building forts. and we are playing with Nerf guns, and we're going to laser tag, and we are doing all of these things that really nourishes our inner child and all of those things that are fun. Because for some reason we think that being adults means we have to like suck and be boring and completely lose sight of the magical parts of life that kids remind us of. So it's important to figure out where we can incorporate play into our life too, because that is going to make you so much more of an effective leader, a business owner, and just human in general. So that's a major do for me.
I embrace that with both arms. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because so my husband and I, we're nerds. Just let's put it out there. We're the nerdiest of the Marvel fans. And
Us too.
so we've been dragging our poor little babies to these Marvel movies, and they're like not at all interested.
So, come on.
Short story. My son this morning told me, because he knows I heart Spider-Man. So he told me, new Spider-Man movies coming out, Mom, and I would like to see it. And I felt like the heavens opened up.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I did something right in my life. No, but on a serious note, Brittany, fun. Who told us that once we become adults, that fun goes through the window? But it seems like somebody told us that, because everybody's living this fun-free life. And I am here to invite us all to bring the fun back in. I love your do's and don'ts, Brittany. I pulled a card for us this morning, and I think in light of what's been going on in the world in general, and certainly for a lot of us who are small business owners, women in business, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, you're going to find this one to be particularly interesting. So this is Rock Bottom, and it's from Colette Baron Reed's deck, The Enchanted Map, which was a gift to us from one of our viewers. So thank you so much for sending this deck in. It says, surrender and acceptance are the keys to freedom. As difficult as it may be to accept, it seems that you've reached a point where you can go no further in the same manner. I agree. I think it's time for all of us to really do what you recommend. Stop and look at the story that has been written and be an active participant in the edits. It's time. This card, I think, is telling us, hey, stop that. It's saying, perhaps you've hit a proverbial brick wall or experienced a deep sense of loss and don't know where to turn. The old ways of doing things must be discarded fully in order to move onward and upward. A new direction and a new strategy are called for. The only way out is through surrender. Accept things as they are and admit that you have no idea what to do next. If you wait, in that heartfelt moment of release, then a stairway will appear like magic, and all manner of synchronicities will show you the way to higher ground. The rock bottom card is a sign that a miracle is about to occur, but only if you let go completely. My thought on this is that, how I said earlier, how everything you need is actually already here, but it's where you're paying your focus. I feel like rock bottom and recharge are basically saying the same thing. Slow down, stop, take a beat, take a breath, because it's in that moment when you're in that downtime when you can actually take your focus off the thing that you've been looking at and perhaps see the other options that are available to you. That's my takeaway, Brittany. Any thoughts from you about what this card is meaning for you?
Yes. When we surrender and let go of the story, when we let go of who we're forcing ourselves to be, when we let go of trying to please everybody and really just surrender and accept this is who I am,
Yes.
then the miracles do start to happen. And it's not even a miracle. It's a decision that you made.
I love that.
It's the power of being you. It just creates alignment.
Beautiful, beautiful. The power of being you creates alignment. So, everyone, this has been a tremendously beneficial show. I certainly think that you're going to be able to, if you want to go back and just re listen to some of the really great tips that Brittany had for us and find some way to implement these in your lives, you'll really, really see some success. Brittany, thank you so much for being on the show today. For those of you who want to get Brittany's free gift, which you're so kind to give to us today, I invite you to go to growsmarter.com/IYL bundle dash Brittany Q. So you'll see a whole bunch of free gifts there. You can choose Brittany's and you can choose any of the others that you would like to have. Guys, it's been so amazing hanging out with you today, and I'll see you all on the next show. Okay, so let's switch gears. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to invite you to unmute and come on camera and let's all have some conversation. This portion of the show is a little bit more, I want to say, a little less structured. And so we'll have an opportunity to have conversation in more detail than we've had before. So welcome, welcome. And I'll just say, hi, everybody. Welcome to Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life. Our guest today is Brittany Quagan. And Brittany, will you just share with everybody who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Brittany Quagan, and I am an intuitive healer, a spiritual teacher, and a licensed therapist.
I love all those things. And you're the bringer of the positive energy. Guys, let me just tell you, I experience the energy of others, perhaps in a very intense way. Some people call it being an empath. I don't really like engaging with those particular terms, but I have to tell you, I feel people's energy. And when Brittany walks into the room, even if it's the Zoom room, you can feel that pure positive energy just radiating off of her. And so it is my sincere pleasure to welcome her to hang out with us today. And we're talking about something that I think, you know what, everybody needs to have some conversation about. We're talking about changing your life, living your optimal life, actually living it by design, getting rid of, or maybe not getting rid of, but editing, as you say, Brittany, editing the format that has been set out for you and making it what you want your life to be. We were talking earlier, and Brittany explained that one of the things that we need to do is we need to stop and look at the story that has been written for us and be an active participant in making the edits. Can you say a little bit more about that, Brittany? Because I thought that was like, that hit me right here in the heart.
Yeah, I think we really get used to following norms and following just sort of like this standard protocol of what you're supposed to do, right? Like go to school, get a degree, get a job, make sure you're going to make enough money, get married, have kids before you're 30 if you're a woman, because as my mom used to say, your eggs are going to get scrambled. Or I know she said rotten things to me, man. Just we fall in line with this supposed to idea that's around us, and there's no thought really into like, what do I really want to do here? And what does it mean if I don't figure that out until I'm 26, 30, 35, 60? Like, what does that mean? And we just kind of go with the supposed to's without pushing back on, no, you know what? I'm 55 and I'm going to go get my MD and I'm going to be a gynecologist. Or I'm 35 and I realized, you know what? I don't want to have kids and I don't have to. Or I'm 26 and I just spent all this time in school for this thing, and I realized I just want to open up a crystal shop, or, whatever the thing is, but we don't stop to see how the story we've been writing all along has kept us complacent or kept us just kind of being pushed along. And it's almost shocking to realize that we actually can stop it and change it at literally any moment.
But Brittany, do you think that people don't realize that they can change it? Do you think that it's almost like we didn't know that we could?
Yes. And it's because of the stories. Like, well, no, I could never do that, because then, that would unravel everything. Or I'd have to move, and like, what if I don't make friends? Or what if what if I don't like it? Or what if I don't have money? And the idea of doing it creates a bunch of like walls that come up with all of the additional story details of why we can't. And it's like deeply rooted in the stories that we've been telling ourselves all along, which are typically full of fear, and fear that has come from our parents' fear and their parents' fear. And this story that just is so, so deeply rooted within us and within our family's construct, and then also the norms of the world.
You know what this reminds me of? There's a meme that I think I've been seeing on social media with a racehorse tethered to a plastic chair.
Oh.
And the horse is just standing there. And it makes you think like, there is no reason. This horse could go about its business, but the idea of being tethered to that plastic chair is keeping it stuck. It feels like what you're talking about really is suggesting to us that we have so many options, but we're not exploring them because we don't realize that we can. Yeah. One of the things that you talk about, and you suggest that it might be a little bit controversial, is that we're never going to be good enough. Oh my goodness. We're never going to be good enough. What does that mean? Can you contextualize that for us?
Yes, because the idea of good enough doesn't exist. And everybody has a different idea of what that means.
I love that so much.
Yeah. For one person, good enough means that you have to be a multimillionaire and, have this big giant house and all these big fancy cars. And that's how you know that you're good enough. And for others, it's, I just have an extraordinarily happy life, and that's good enough. So you have to decide what your good enough is. And if it seems like it's something unattainable, you have to do some digging and find out why that is. Like, what is the story that you're telling yourself that this is an unattainable goal for me? And whose goal is it? Is it actually mine? Or is it somebody else's? Is it an idea that's been planted in my head based on the story?
I really find that that's something deep and meaningful. And I think that's something that people will be able to dive deeply into, because the truth is we do have a lot of goals and ideas of what a good life would be that have not come from us at all. And so if we're not meeting that standard, if we're not leveling up to that level, it can leave us feeling inadequate and feeling badly about ourselves and feeling, dare I say, unhappy for absolutely no reason, because these things aren't ours. These goals aren't ours. We probably don't even want them anyway. For me, to be honest, my best life is probably working a lot less than I am now and being able to make it to the beach more often. Like that's it. And of course, my kids are happy. That's pretty much it for me. I really don't need a whole lot of stuff. And then again, there's some people for whom the stuff is exciting. And so if that's your deal, fine. I think
Right.
it's so important to make sure that the things that we're wanting are the things that we're wanting, so that
Mhm.
we're making our decisions based on our desires and not the desires of ancestors.
Mhm. Absolutely. And people will be putting expectations on you everywhere you go. And we have to decide, like, is this their expectation of me, or is this something that I align with?
Mhm,
A
mhm.
huge wake-up call for me um was not long ago. I like to just observe kind of like how people are living their lives and what's going on. And what really hit me was realizing that for so many people to just sit in your backyard and read a book on a nice day is a luxury, because they're grinding it out and busting their ass constantly because of all of the pressures that are on them and the expectations that people have, that you have to like work and do, that doing something as simple as reading a freaking book on a nice day in a hammock has to be a luxury. And it's like, why is that a life that I would want? But at one point, that was this idea in my head that, you're going to grind it out and you got to be the CEO of this company and all you're going to do is work and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm going to be rich and famous. And then it was like, no, all I really want to do is like sit in my freaking yard and read a really good book. Like that to me is living an aligned, joyful existence. At least like being able to do that once a week and not have it be some big ordeal where finally I get to do this. It just felt so ridiculous that I had to adjust my life because of it. My
Yeah.
whole life. Mhm.
I I know a lot of the people who tune in to us, they are coming from that hustle culture, that
Mhm.
sort of, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to
Yeah.
do. But if it's not what you choose, that's okay too. And I think it's important that we are reminded about this. So you're saying, if you're going to give us this blueprint of how we're going to live our life by design and not by default, you're saying we actually need to look at the story, look at what our life is, and make those edits. You're saying that don't worry about being good enough. I love a quote that you have: do not seek approval, do seek alignment. I thought that was brilliant. I may have to post that one on our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group. And by the way, if you're not part of our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group, where have you been? We miss you. We want you to come on over, because we're having this kind of conversation over there all week long. We're supporting each other. We're helping everybody's business to grow and helping everybody to live their optimal life. So if you want to join us, go to growsmarternotharder.com/Facebook. So simple. Brittany, you've also said that one of the things that we need to do is we need to seek support.
Mhm.
A lot of us feel like, you know what, I'm just going to go it alone. A lot of us are lone wolves. A lot of us feel like if we're not doing it alone or by ourselves, it's not going to get done right. Can you say a little bit about why it's important to have that support network?
The first thing I would say is, if we're coming at it from the perspective that if I don't do it alone, it's not going to get done right, that's a part of our story we have to look at. Like what is telling us that we are the only ones that can get something done correctly. But as far as support goes, I get it. Like I'm a therapist and I didn't start going to therapy until 2 years ago. And I've been working in mental health for over 10 years. Because for me, like I would go to life coaches and I would seek out spiritual groups and do a lot of spiritual development and wellness and meditation and stuff like that. But you can't call yourself out on your own bullshit if you don't know what your bullshit is. So it's really just a matter of someone holding space for you and having conversations just like this. Like me and my therapist talk like this all the time. And hearing how we talk to ourselves, because we are in here all day long. And so we're used to the patterns of thought. But when it starts to come out of our mouth and we actually hear what we're saying and how we say it to ourselves, that's the first thing that happens, where it's like, oh my God, now I hear all these excuses, or like all this beating myself up, or all this story that I keep playing out. And they're just there to hold space and to highlight it. Hey, you just said this. Remember last week when you said the same thing? Is this something that you often say? And then you're like, oh my God, it is. And it helps us really reread the story from not necessarily unbiased, but from a fresh perspective, to be able to make edits. And if anybody who's watching has ever written a book and you have to reread your own book 1,000 times, you miss all of the grammatical issues, you miss all of the typos, you miss all of that, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's the same thing when you go and seek out support. You need a fresh perspective to look at it, to see those typos, because otherwise you're not going to be recognizing them.
I just love that analogy so much, because I'm so embracing of having support. One of my very first coaches that I had, she said to me, you always want to have a lot of support. And on the day that you feel like you have too much support, that's the day you need to go get some more support, because you're not thinking about it right. And I know for sure that it is really, really difficult to see the picture when you're standing in the frame. One of our friends likes to say, you can't see the label when you're inside the bottle. It's just not really possible to see ourselves in the way that a support partner can see us. So having somebody like a therapist or a coach support us through this process, I feel like that's golden. You mentioned, and I loved this one. This one felt really, really good for me. You said, embrace the things that make you different. Don't dull your shine. Embrace what makes you quirky. Look, I'm coming from a corporate environment where being buttoned up and being a certain way was really, really revered. I was very often the only woman at the table. I was very often the youngest person at the table. I was very often the only person of color at the table. And so I fit myself, Brittany, viewers, listeners, into a box that was so small and so tight. For those of you who are watching and not necessarily following along on my podcast, you could see that I have surrendered to the curly hair. What? Back in corporate days, this was all pulled back in a very straight blow-dried bun, and everything was just a very, very specific way. Nobody could know, for example, that I am a big sci-fi nerd. That was just something that would never, never be shared. Now everybody knows the secret's out, guys. And guess what? I've made so many friends as a result of it.
Yes, exactly.
It's like I found my folks. Where have you been all my life?
Yep. Yeah.
So what is it that happened with you that made you decide that, you know what, one of the 5 points that I want to share with people when it comes to transforming their lives is really encouraging them to embrace who they are at their core?
The first thing that I think of is the fact that being a psychic medium landed me a role for Yale Psychiatry. Which is something that
we all want to hear that story now. Who wants to hear that story? Everybody just raise their hands. Come on, Brittany.
Yeah, so I own Journey's School for the Soul, where we would do readings, and I was reading the chat that popped up. But we would do readings, and I would teach people how to do readings, and we had meditation. We had all kinds of stuff there. It's amazing. And doing that work led me to participate in a research study on people who have experiences with hearing things that other people aren't. And they were looking at folks who had these experiences, but had no need for a diagnosis or any struggles, because if you actually look at what that means on paper, it would be auditory hallucinations. And when we think of hallucinations, we think of people who are unwell. And so I participated in this research study and got along really well with one of the doctors who was leading it. And at the time I was in school to get my license, or to get my master's, to get my license to be a therapist. And I had reached out to him about clinical hours, because you need that to get your license. And the next thing that I knew, I was managing this neuroscience lab and working at this clinic, and all of the people who work there are fully aware that I'm this psychic medium and that I'm coming from a completely different perspective than they are. I'm at a table with psychiatrists, not because I needed the medication, but because I was working with them to teach them that people can have experiences that are unusual or spiritual and not need a label and not need to be stigmatized for their entire life. And if I didn't come out of the broom closet, as I call it, with being a psychic medium and doing this spiritual work, I never would have gotten the job at Yale. And I never would have established a really solid clinical background for myself to then take to my clients in therapy, and then still be able to embrace the psychic medium piece. So it's you never know what the next door is going to lead to when you simply surrender to who you are, welcome that in, embrace it, and just see like where the journey takes you. Because in a million years, I never would have thought I'd be working at like an Ivy League college. I thought the only thing that would have gotten me into Yale psychiatry would have been an actual psychotic break. So not
Oh my
working there.
goodness. Brittany, this story is everything. And so my hope is that, having shared with everybody how absolutely huge of a sci-fi nerd I am, might actually get me on one of my favorite shows sometime in the future. You never know.
Yes.
Captain Davia? No,
Yes.
not really a very good ring to it. We're workshopping this one. If you guys have ideas about who I will be in the next Marvel movie, please please send your suggestions. Drop it over in our Facebook group, growsmarter.harder.com/Facebook. Awesome. Brittany, the last one that you shared with us was: take action, but don't forget to hold space for fun and play. Nourish your inner child. Say more about that.
Yeah, life does not have to be all work. And it is a success to be able to nourish these parts of ourselves that seek joy and seek fun and seek play and really magic. The thing that I noticed was I would look at social media, which can be hit or miss depending on the mindset that you're in at the time. And I would notice feelings of jealousy and longing when I would see people doing things that looked really fun. And I had to stop and ask myself, well, what are you upset about? Because you're not having any fun. You're not experiencing any playfulness. And when I started to embrace that, I just felt more full and I felt more alive, and it allowed me to feel like my cup was full and I had more to give to others. I wasn't just depleted because my entire schedule was working and binge watching Stranger Things, or laying there dead because I'm exhausted, or needing to go to therapy, or needing to get a massage because I was in pain. It was, I'm making space for this fully balanced life of work and play and joy in both areas, not just in these little snippets that I hope to create for myself every few months. One of the first things people tend to do when they're overwhelmed or overworked is to cancel their plans with friends and to cancel their fun plans. And what does that leave you with? More work. So I'm going to add to that do not list, which is do not cancel fun first. Cancel the things that aren't an absolute priority and responsibility. Cancel the things that aren't fun. If you go to family gatherings out of obligation, but you want to freaking die at the end because all they're talking about is trauma and politics and things that just cause you incredible amounts of anxiety, cancel that. But don't cancel going out to the vineyard with a friend, or having your friends over, or getting a cup of coffee with a friend, or going to a movie, or going to play laser tag, or whatever it is that you had planned, because those things are imperative for a balanced, happy life.
I love that. Brittany, before you go, I'm going to put you right on the spot. Can you give us one little homework assignment? Just one thing that we can take from today's show and go implement in our lives.
Yes, your homework assignment, and I give this to all of my clients. I want you to start making a list of all of the things that you find yourself saying, I wish I could do that. I want to do something like that. I would love to do something like that. I don't care if it's something like you're watching TikTok and they're making soup dumplings and you're like, oh man, that would be so delicious to make. I don't care if it's a restaurant you've always wanted to go to. I don't care if it's traveling, anything. It could be anything at all. Start keeping a running list of that, and then look at what is on that list and start to ask yourself why. Why haven't I implemented those things? What's the story telling me that I can't do that? Because you're going to do two things with that assignment. One, you're going to start seeing the things in your life that you want to implement to create more joy, to create more fun, to create a more balanced, happy life. And two, you're going to start getting into the habit of asking yourself what the story is that limits you from living the life that you want to live.
That's the best homework ever. And I'm going to raise my hand right now for those of you who can see us on the show, or for those of you who are listening to us on the podcast. I'm just going to narrate this is me raising my hand. I am going to do this, and it'll be interesting to continue this conversation over in Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group, or smarternotharder.com/Facebook, where we can all add to that list of, hey, these are things that we like. These are things that are fun for us. These are things that for some reason are not showing up in our lives in the way we would want to, and why, and how can we make that happen? I think that's tremendous. Brittany, it's been such an outstanding pleasure having you on the show. Clearly, I'm gonna have to have you back. But guys, wait, there's more, because there's always more.
There's always more.
Brittany is a best-selling author, and she is actually going to be one of our outstanding facilitators on our Ladies Power Lunch Fall Summit, which is going to be October 17th in person and virtual, and October 18th virtual only. So if you'd like to come hang out with Brittany, I'm going to share a secret with you. She's our first presenter on the program. No pressure. She is going to be presenting our first workshop of the day on October 17th. So I'd love for all of you to come on over and hang out with her. If you can come in person, we're going to be at Farmington Gardens in Farmington, Connecticut. So get on your trains, your planes, your automobiles. If you have to swim, fly, I don't know, if you want to float over, however you transport yourself, we welcome you. Come on over. And if you want to get more information about Summit, about who the other presenters are going to be, just go to growsmarternotharder.com/ticket, and you can get more information there. I I'm so excited to have you as part of our upcoming anthology that we're launching in October, and also to have you on the program for our Ladies Power Lunch Fall Summit. I'm also excited to be able to come to you, Brittany, as a friend and to have you on the show. It means so much. And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. It's been a great show today. And I'll see you guys on the next show. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.